for richer or poorer, this is one unlikely marriage. Over 16 years, In Mingshan built up a family-owned motorbike and automaker with no Chinese state involvement. But ironically, a key investor today in this billion-dollar turnover firm is none other than the US government. That's because Mr. In sold 13.5% of his Lifan group just before the financial meltdown. And the buyer, paying $90 million, was the troubled US insurance giant AIG.
In order to save AIG, the US government took a 79.9% stake in the conglomerate. So we can calculate that the US government now owns 10.7% of Lifan. Indirectly, it's become our second biggest shareholder.
This is a strategic partnership by default, rather like the way the governments of the US and China find themselves joined at the hip more than ever before in the wake of the global meltdown. His administration needs China, the country with cash, to keep supporting US debt, while his party needs a US recovery so Americans will start buying again. Despite the reassuring smiles, however, the Chinese are suspicious.
China is more concerned about trade protectionism because goods made in China can sell all over the world, more so than other countries' products.
It was a long time ago when the US was China's key ally during World War II, when General Vinegar Joe Stilwell had his headquarters here in Chongqing. Today, mutual mistrust over each other's military intentions in the region risk undermining the G2 marriage of convenience. There are simmering rows over the presence of American survey ships in disputed waters that China vigorously claims as its own, waters that are said to be rich in oil and gas. And then there's Taiwan, which the US has pledged somewhat ambiguously to defend, while Beijing insists the island is a renegade province that if pushed, it would retake by force. Taiwan, territory, in fact anything that Beijing considers interference in domestic affairs are red lines. This includes criticism of human rights, particularly over the treatment of Muslims in the rest of Xinjiang region and of course Tibet. Foreign governments can't even meet the Dalai Lama in their own countries without risking a damaging trade spat with a confident China.
Right now they're on top of the world, they've got the money and other countries don't, but they are not engendering goodwill. This is like America in the Bush era where you think you're powerful and you can go dismiss other countries and push them around. You're going to turn around and need friends someday and they're not going to be there for you. So China, I think China's got to cool it a bit on that. That's an immature way to handle your own diplomacy.
Immature or not, Beijing is often playing to the crowd. Well, rather a growing, fiercely nationalistic, vociferous online community that complains of a government that's not tough enough with foreigners. The government's proposal at the G20 to create a new international reserve currency was applauded by those calling on China to dump the dollar, while online pressure influenced the blocking of a planned $2.4 billion acquisition by Coca-Cola. At a time of global slowdown, with millions losing their jobs, a seemingly simple way to please the masses is to be seen to stand up for China.
This is a very responsive government. It's hard for people to understand because they think they're authoritarian, they can crush people, they can crush a few people that threaten the party. But beyond that, they better please the citizenry. In order to stay in power, it's kind of like the old imperial days to maintain the mandate of heaven. Well, the mandate of heaven's 12% growth, I think, now.
In today's economic climate, that's one ambitious mandate. So expect Beijing to perform an opera-like face-changing routine, engaging with the international community, notably the US, in matters of trade and the global financial architecture, and then uncompromisingly stubborn in defending its red lines. China, however, underscores the win-win nature of this new G2 relationship. But much like the example of Lifan and Mr. In, for the foreseeable future, it's clear who's in the driving seat.